inhospitable womb. You have failed to conceive. It's like you have failed to
you
conceive.
have failed.
All on the woman. Let's first of all talk about the language, because again, this seems to be very problematic for women. Barren.
I was a geriatric mother.
Yeah, you've got to.
So I'd have to have certain extra tests, and this was going to happen. I would have to be induced. Clients come to me day in, day out and say, I'm the one that's to blame. It's my fault.
In the water, if you're not filtering it, you are drinking contraceptive pill.
Yeah, contraceptive pill, and you're trying to get pregnant. Start with your water, because it's something you boil your food in, you drink, you wash your plates with, everything.
Pesticides we should talk about.
They did a study of, they were already fertile men who were near crops that were sprayed. The disparity between the sperm was phenomenal.
Hello, Liberty.
Hello.
It's so nice to meet you.
And you?
I'm really looking forward to having this chat, because on Happy Place, we've been going for 7 years now. We've talked about fertility, probably more from a personal story side of things, but I don't think we've really got into the nitty gritty of looking at it from your perspective, which is from the perspective of, I can never say this word properly, integrative health coach.
Yes.
So if anyone's thinking, what on earth is that? How would you describe that role, first of all?
I look at everybody, so I'm not for everybody. You know, I look at everybody from the 360. So I'll even ask people, what was going on when your mum was pregnant with you? You know, was she stressed? Did she have to have antibiotics? What was your birth like? So I look at everything, trauma, food, because if you're eating, I don't know, what did I just eat? An egg, avocado, kale, pickles, kimchi, all of that lot, but you're stressed, and you're having 4 coffees, or you fasted and not broken your fast with the fat and all of those things, you're not going to be absorbing those nutrients.
Yeah, do you know what? It's so interesting when we look at wellness, how there'll be all this specific stuff that you might read or see on the internet about, you need to eat like this, or you need to exercise like that. And then we forget to say, yes, but if you're incredibly stressed and you're not managing that, none of that stuff's going to touch sides.
What's the point?
What is the point? And especially when it comes to fertility, which we're going to really deeply dive into, because not only is your professional work focused on helping people throughout their fertility journey, but this is really fired up from your own personal story as well. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. My own personal story is I had a child 3 days after my 23rd birthday, naturally. And then I met someone a long time later. I was 41 when I met him, and I'd always wanted to have another child, but I hadn't met someone that I thought would be the kind of dad that I wanted them to be, and he's an amazing dad. And so off we trotted to get our tests, and the woman, the GP, just looked at me basically as if I was mad. And she took her glasses off, looked down at her notes and said, "You do know how old you are?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she said, 1974, you were born the same year as me. This isn't going to happen. You'll need to go and see a fertility clinic, and you'll probably need egg donor.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, okay. You know, you just believe what the people in white coats tell you, right?
Of course. I think this is the issue for so many people, that you're told something as if it's a fact.
That was just off reading my date of birth, no testing done, no blood work done.
And you were given a 0.7% chance with IVF.
With IVF from a very, very renowned IVF clinic with my tests. Because I did, which is, was based on their clinical data, that was the number I was given. I had one, their words again, barren ovary, barren. Wow. And then the other one had only a few viable follicles.
I want to get onto the language in a minute, but first of all, spoiler alert, you had a baby.
Spoiler alert, had a baby, naturally, and conceived naturally, no IVF. Not that I'm against IVF, loads of my clients do IVF, and I fully support that. And she was born naturally. I wasn't induced, no complications. And when I gave birth to her, I shouted, Women rule.
Yes.
Yeah, because she was a girl.
When we look at the 0.7% chance with IVF that many women, we're going to get onto the couples and the man bit in a minute, but many women hear that, their heart sinks, they mentally sort of give up and just think it's not going to happen. But we hear so many stories like yours where you make changes, you make tweaks. You know, you had a head start with you were doing your training at the time to become a health coach. So you knew the direction you wanted to head in. But we need to hear more stories like that and ways that we can feel empowered and make choices that do work for us. So let's first of all talk about the language, because, again, this seems to be very problematic for women. I've had so many friends who have been told they've got geriatric eggs, barren.
I was a geriatric mother.
Yeah, you've got to...
So I'd have to have certain extra tests, and this was going to happen. I would have to be induced. And I said, no, I'm not. I don't tell me... on my data, why do I have to be? Not on my date of birth.
Yeah. But the language feels almost sort of accusatory, like it's your fault, like inhospitable womb. That's a phrase that's used in the medical world, as well as you have failed to conceive. It's like you have failed to conceive.
You have failed. Failed.
All on the woman.
Clients come to me day in, day out and say, I'm the one that's to blame. It's my low AMH. It's my fault. That's what they say. And I said, well, actually, can you just give me the sperm result? And I said, well, there's a male contributing factor as well. It's just a contributing factor. And those numbers you can move. You can't, change the number of eggs, but you can change the quality of the eggs. You can change the quality of the host body. You can easily change the sperm quite often.
Yeah.
More often than not. You can. I've not had a man that I've sounds weird, not personally seen and changed his sperm, but as a coach, I've not had a man in the last 5.5 years that I've not changed his sperm quality, quantity, even DNA fragmentation. And that's important. People don't talk about that either.
The disparity is huge. I mean, there's a canyon between how we're looking at women's health when it comes to fertility and men's, because we're not looking at it. We're just like, what can the woman do? How can she feel less stressed? How can she eat better? But actually, in your book, you write in detail about how much alcohol is the male consuming? Are they vaping?
Vaping's huge.
Yeah, so that's actually...
You've got 3,000 to 4,000 chemicals within each vape. You can vape way more places, socially than you can smoke. So you're probably actually having more than you would do if you're having a cigarette, because you can't smoke in a lot of places.
And what's that doing to sperm?
It's destroying it. And it's not only actually is it destroying those, but what is it, the ones that you are then, what happens if you do fertilize the egg? What quality embryo? What is going to be the quality of your child's health going forward?
So
that's why I think it's important.
So when we're looking at men, we can look at the obvious stuff like, are they smoking? Are they vaping? Are they consuming too much alcohol? What else could change the quality of sperm that could fundamentally, change the course of whether somebody gets pregnant or not?
Quite often it's the basics as well. Just think as well, sperm, semen is in fluid. A lot of men are dehydrated. They're not drinking enough. So you can get clumpy sperm. Right? Not great.
I want to be mature about this, but I'm finding it really hard.
Me too.
Clumpy
That's going to be a clip.
I've never heard those words together.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Clumpy sperm, right?
Clumpy
we don't want clumpy sperm. We want...
they want to... And I always do this. I don't know why. They're not this big.
Yeah. No.
Not...
Okay.
Check for a varicocele. Varicoceles are very, very common. So it's like a varicose vein you might have in your leg. You can get them within the testes.
Right.
Right? And that can be a contributing factor if it's too big.
Wow.
Don't freak out if you do have them and you're a chap or your partner has them, because they are quite common. But it depends on the size.
Right.
So certain ones, for example, if you were doing IVF on the NHS, you wouldn't be eligible if they were a certain size.
Right.
But it's something that's on first, your GP can check you out, and you can then go and have an MRI to see how big they are or how many you've got. And then I've had a client, they've had the little operation to, sort that out. Then you have to wait before you try to conceive because it has the sperm renews every 64 days. And then you can try again. And then I've had clients that were told they needed sperm donor or they'd have to have ICSI. And then after that, they didn't need it.
Wow.
And they've conceived naturally because their varicoceles were quite large.
Because this isn't really talked about, on a mainstream level, we're not bringing men into the fertility conversation. How often do you find it when you're working with couples that the man is reluctant to get on board with changes or...
Quite often. Quite often, men, they come to me, so it's all on Zoom because I do it worldwide, and they'll be like this. Oh, my partner's met this woo-woo lady on Instagram. What's going on? And so I was talking to a gentleman. I said, you believe in maths, right? You believe in statistics. So you wouldn't, if you were baking a cake, it has to be, that's a science. Has to be certain measures. You can't be a baker like me who just shoves everything in willy-nilly and then it doesn't quite turn out right how it's meant to be on the picture. And I said, so you need to get those levels right. There's measures, for example, like the Kruger scale of morphology for a reason. And we can't just say, oh, well, it doesn't matter anymore. You have to get those levels up and then we can enter the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, okay. And when they usually see that I say, right, we'll do this and then you'll get tested. And if it hasn't improved, you say goodbye to me. But if it has improved, let's continue working. And we do that and then like, oh, it's improved. Or my sleep quality's got better. My, energy's got better, my focus. And then I've, quadrupled my sperm motility, like the way it goes up, because quite a lot of men's sperm just hangs out having a little party.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm imagining you're hearing these stories constantly from your clients that, they're surprised by these changes.
Yeah. Last week even I had one guy who'd had quite low levels all over his sperm. And he was sent to see a urologist, and then the urologist checked him out, no varicocele, nothing. Said, okay, try some lifestyle changes. I've seen you've, got this lady, and then he went back, and everything was great, optimum level. And the urologist, Harley Street urologist, was like, "What have you done? Give me the sheet. What did the lady? What did she put you on?" But it was everything. It's not, a lot of people come to me like, what pill can I take?
Yeah.
It's not just that. If it was that simple, someone would have done it by now.
Yeah. Well, your approach is, you say body and soul. So we need to cover both. Let's continue on the body front first. So we've looked at sort of vaping, alcohol. There'll be a whole host of people that will be listening to this that will currently be on antidepressants or anxiety medication. What are the guidelines with that? Because I'm imagining... there is a detrimental outcome.
Is. So my partner won't mind, after we were given our diagnosis, he did slump into a depression and was put on an antidepressant. And then when I looked into it, I was like, actually, this is not great for your sperm. Can you go back and ask for a different one? Or can you ask for some other way to be helped? Because it's actually going to harm what's made you slump into this depression.
If you really don't want to come off antidepressants or anxiety medication because it works for you, you've been on it a long time, are there things you can do to perhaps counter it or help
up
you?
Your B12, your Vitsy. I'll send you, there's like a whole PDF of what depletes what. So even certain different medications deplete certain nutrients within the body. So if I'm taking this medication, it depletes magnesium, well, you need to make sure you have extra magnesium or you look for more magnesium rich foods.
Yeah. I mean, how important are supplements? Because again, it's such an oversaturated market. I think people are so confused. They're not sure.
It is really
who
confusing.
To listen to.
Yeah. Like the leading brand of fertility supplement for women and for men, I'm not a fan of because it's full of bulking agents, talc, why do we need talc in, I don't want talc in my body.
No.
Maltodextrin, which has a really high GI. What happens if you're trying to get your BMI down to be eligible for some fertility treatment? And that's in every single one of your supplements. Also, my issue with a lot of supplements is the amount that's in there. It's very confusing. So the amount that's in there is not what the clinical trials have been done on to make a difference.
Right.
For example, this supplement I'm talking about has, let me just think, I think it has 14 mg zinc in the men's supplement, and 66 is what's been clinically tried to make a difference. So you're taking this fertility male supplement, but it's only got, it's like 50 off what you're meant to have.
Yeah.
It's not going to make a difference.
Yeah.
Yes, it does have zinc in, which makes a difference, but it's not at the difference that it would make.
So
not
is
the
it
right
worth,
amount, sorry.
Is it worth really looking into what you need? How do you find out? I mean, I know it's listed in your book, but what is a good way to work out a supplementation program that is really going to aid you in your fertility?
I think just seriously, just sit down, write a food diary, write, are you stressed? 0 to 10. How are you sleeping? 0 to 10. Quality. Do you wake up feeling refreshed? What is your poo like? I talk a lot about poo.
I love talking about poo.
So many people, I say, when I first started, I messed up. I'd say, are you regular? They say, yes, I'm regular. Tick. Now I say, how often do you go? When do you go? And what does it look like?
Yeah.
Because
it says so much about you.
I had one lady the other day. She said, I'm regular. I go like every 2-3 days.
Oh, I would feel
I
dreadful.
said, do you only eat every 2-3 days?
Yeah.
No. So, that will tell you a lot. It will tell you, are you dehydrated? Look at your tongue. All of these things are free.
Yeah,
to let you know.
You look at people's tongues. That's one of the first
Every
things
week.
you do.
Yeah.
That's surprising. So what is the tongue telling us in this conversation?
So I'll ask them to stick it out. You can tell if someone's got gut dysbiosis by the colour. So when I used to be really sick with lupus, mine was often very, very thick white or even yellow, depending on how fissured, like how cracked the tongue is. Also, if you stick it out to the side, you can see if you clench your jaw. So I'll say, I might be chatting to a chap and say, you said you're not really that stressed, but you seem to clench your jaw. And he'll say, how do you know?
Well, it's like teeth marks?
Yeah,
like
you'll
grooves?
have indentations on the side of your tongue. So I'm like, okay, how do we, instead of you just bulldozing through the stress, how do we actually look after you?
Yeah. I mean, one of the other things that you say many of your clients are reluctant to, men and women, is journaling. And this seems to be quite a key part, not only food diaries, but also just writing about how you're feeling. This is perhaps now getting onto the soul side of things.
Yeah.
And looking at how you're feeling and what's on your mind. How is that important in the fertility conversation?
It's a poison. Anything that's negative in the body, like if you eat a dodgy prawn or a dodgy oyster, your body wants to get rid of it. But there's a lot of negativity around fertility, and we just do that stiff upper lip. Yeah, I'm fine. It's okay. Yeah, it didn't work. I'm just going to do another round. Or if it's quite often the partner of the person that's not carrying, they feel like they don't have the space to be upset because it's the lady that's doing it.
So you want both the man and the woman to be really honest about how they're feeling.
Yeah, quite often they've not even communicated to each other, or they've not even voiced it to them. I have clients that have not told their mum, their sister, their best friend. They're like, no, I'm just getting on with it.
Well, I think also when it's, and I've had this again with friends over the years, is when you are so desperately wanting to get pregnant and it becomes all consuming, there is pressure on a relationship. It does change things.
Huge. I write a lot about sex in the book as well. People they're just having sex around that window, and then the rest of the time they're not having sex. I have guys crying to me saying, I don't feel like my partner thinks I'm attractive anymore.
Well, it's functional rather than it being
and the lady
sex.
never even knew. And I'm like, okay, we need to get you both on here and talk about. Or people don't. I asked a lady the other day, she'd been through 3 rounds of IVF. I said, how do you feel towards your body? You've sorted it out in your head, but how? She was like, I hate it. I don't like my body. It's failed me. So it's like, okay, we need you to start loving your body again.
Yeah. I mean, you say in the book a lot of women have a massive disconnect with their body going through this process, whether it's IVF or not, that they start to have that either self-loathing about it, they feel that it's not working as it should. And this is a fundamental thing that needs to be changed for you to get pregnant.
I believe so. I really believe that it's science, it's nutrition, it's food, it's your psyche, it's everything. Everything needs to be healed, because also I don't want, I always say to people, you're not my client. Your future child is my client. And I want them to be really, really happy. I know that when I went through my fertility journey, I didn't tell anyone until I was 24 weeks. Because, oh, you're old, you'll probably miscarry. And so I had that in my head. I couldn't even celebrate when I got the pregnancy test. Oh, and we just looked at, well, better not get too excited. I'm just gone with the day.
So really, you've got to be boundaried as well as to what you're letting in, what you're mentally going to listen to, and what you're going to choose to listen to. And that's not about having false hopes or being overly optimistic. It's actually because, when we look at, yes, there's the science bit of it, and it's not like you're denying any of this, but when we look at the psychology or our psyche when it comes to physical health, we can see how much stress correlates to illness. I've had health issues myself, and I'm pretty sure most of it was from stress. There's no other reason.
What it is, I don't know, I can't remember, but we're way more likely to develop an autoimmune disease than men. Like, why is that?
Because we are carrying
Because
the
we
world
carry on the world,
shoulders.
we pile on makeup, you're getting your hair done, you've been on the contraceptive pill since you were 14 because you had acne, all of those things. It's not just the one thing.
No.
It's all contributing factors. So you need to address all of the contributing factors.
The stress thing, I think, is huge for women. I remember when Gabor Mate, he came on the podcast, but obviously, we've read his books and we know what his take on a lot of things are. And one thing that always sticks out to me that he said, I think it was in an article he wrote, not actually in a book, and he said that women are the shock absorbers of society. And it's so true. Often, it's not all the time, obviously, but often that we are carrying the emotional load for the family, the practical load of everything going on in the home. It's so much for us to deal with, and we're not coping particularly well. And of course, that's going to have a bearing on our physical body. Of course it is.
I have women that come to me, and it's maybe even just a primary soul factor is the man's sperm. And they say, I'll do the sessions for him because I don't want to stress him out.
Wow.
And it's the male factor. Infertility or subfertility is affecting 1 in 7 couples, and within that, the data is anywhere. It's a 48% man, 52% women.
Is that right?
Yeah. So why are we not addressing the male factor? And within that's so both contributing to unexplained infertility. And then within that, it's a 30 to 40% soul male factor.
Wow.
And if we're not supported as women on this journey, the men are just left out on a desert island.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I was totally ignorant to that. It's almost half, and we're treating it like a female issue.
A female issue.
Yeah. When you say the word fertility, I think woman.
Yes.
But if we're going to solve this issue for so many couples that are so desperately wanting to have a baby, it's got to be both.
Well, there's people need to read the work of Dr. Shauna Swan. She wrote a book, it's Count Zero, and she predicts by 2045, because of the way sperm is declining, the quality of sperm is declining, most couples within the Western world will need assisted fertility.
Wow.
Yeah, because
terrifying.
because the sperm quality has decreased so much in the last 50 years.
And that is because of not only stress and diet.
Microplastics.
So let's dive into this, because I'm not going to lie. When I read that bit of the book, I was slightly freaked out. Like, I need to buy all new pots
Yeah,
and pans.
I don't want people to freak out, because then that's stress.
I know.
And it's going to deplete all your nutrients. So please don't
I won't be
stress
stressed about it. I'll just
be aware.
I'll be aware.
I think it's to be aware, to be educated, and then you can make an informed decision of what to do.
So even if we really like drill into this, even if we're looking at what spatula we're using to cook.
That was the first thing I thought of in my head.
Pot we're using to cook in. What are we looking for here? Because this isn't just some sort of like woo-woo thing. There's
so much.
Tons of data that looks at what we're ingesting because of the utensils and the pots and pans we're using.
I mean, I think I used 66 studies within the book, but I think I read about 160 over that just for the book. But there's so much clinical data out there.
And by the way, this isn't just important for fertility.
No,
this
it's important.
Our health.
Well, yeah.
And hormone disruption, right?
Exactly. And this book isn't for people that just are trying to have a baby. I wrote this book because I want to look after my daughter's fertility, who's 5 years old. So I don't have bleach in the house. That's not going down the loo because it's a hormone disruptor.
So if you put bleach down the loo, when you sit on the loo...
when you're cleaning the loo, you're down there, aren't you? Your head's down there. You might be up there with a mask on, I don't know. But You're breathing in those fumes.
Yeah, I use bleach to clean the bin. I'm rethinking this.
Yeah, rethink it.
I'm getting a different product. But our houses are seemingly full of these toxins.
It seems to be everywhere.
It's sort of everywhere.
Yeah.
So where do we even start? Because it is overwhelming when you start to have to do an overhaul.
Start removing and replacing as you go along. If you need a new pan, get a different new pan.
And what are we talking? What is the best pan?
You don't really want the non-stick ones. So look at cast iron, ceramic, also wood is great.
For a
not for a spatula, for your cooking.
Pan.
Not
That's
in a wooden pan. Set the house on fire. Think of just anything to do with plastic is just not a good idea. So if it's got a plastic coating, just think, I know we have straws or your coffee cup. It will, even though it's a paper coffee cup, it's still got the plastic coating inside. Otherwise, the paper's just going to disintegrate when it has your coffee in it.
Yeah.
So carry your cup around.
Well, like a stainless steel cup.
Your water bottle, even if it says PBA free, I don't care. Because they're probably just putting it's some kind of plastic, right?
Yeah. So it's all of these things we need to keep a lookout on.
Yeah.
Also, drinking water is a big one. And look, we listen to the news. We know it's a huge problem worldwide. But in our supposedly sort of civilized country in the UK, the water quality is poor, and it's full of bleach and chlorine and all sorts.
And quite often the companies are getting fined as well because of the quality. When I was researching for the book, I was astounded at the amount of water companies that do get fined, and they just pay the fine and they just carry on.
Yeah.
And yes, all of these things do cost money. I get that. It's not for everyone. But you can get an under-the-counter filter for just under £100. And I would rather do that than get my nails done which are toxic anyway. But, go out, get a takeaway. There's places where you can remove and replace.
Yeah.
So often, and save the money to invest it elsewhere.
Because also the thing, I'd read this elsewhere, but I saw it in your book and it reminded me and how shocked I was the first time I read this, that in the water, if you're not filtering it, you are drinking contraceptive pill.
Yeah, contraceptive pill, and you're trying to get pregnant.
And that is, again, going to disrupt your hormones hugely, I'm imagining.
Yeah, or everyone else's antidepressants or drugs or whatever they've been taking.
Yeah, that's all in there. So water is a big one.
Yeah, I'd start with your water, definitely. If you're cleaning up your kitchen, start with your water, because it's something you boil your food in, you drink, you wash your plates with, everything. Start with your water.
And also pesticides we should talk about.
pesticides.
So washing all fruit and veg.
Washing or soaking, if possible. Soak for 15 to 20 minutes. There was I was listening to it was Dr. Shauna Swan. She looked at they did a study of they were already fertile men who were near, not even just ingesting the food, crops that were sprayed. And then they went to a city. So everyone's ingesting probably the same kind of food, but it's the ones that was exposed to the spraying of the crops. And the disparity between the sperm was phenomenal.
Wow.
Like lower sperm. I've even had it with farmers that I've worked with. In general, the farmers that I've worked with, their sperm has been quite low.
Wow.
Because of the chemicals they're having to use.
Gosh. I mean, it's a lot to take on, and it's a lot of change. But if this is something that you're wanting, and, you know, say you've been through IVF and then you're having to pay for it because you can't use the NHS, these changes are going to be cheaper.
Yes.
They are
also,
going to be.
I make my organic, gluten-free bread, and it costs me about £1.25. I don't go and buy the one in the supermarket that's wrapped up in plastic. I'm not a baker, as I said before. I'm terrible at that sort of thing. I'm just to throw it in the mixer, press the button, don't proof it, stick it in the oven. And everyone seems to like it.
Yeah.
And it's cheap.
Yeah.
Well, cheaper than if I was buying a product out in the supermarket.
Yeah, I mean, making stuff from scratch is always going to be cheaper and
Yeah.
certainly going to be better for you, for sure. So let's go back to the mind for a minute, because this is, I think, something that we can talk about really broadly, whether it's for fertility or not, but how much negative self-talk impacts us, not only mentally, which we know, because we've all done it. You end up in a terrible spiral. You end up feeling 10 times worse because you're obsessing over these negative voices, these negative thoughts in your head. But also the physical repercussions. And they do exist. And this is where, again, the debate can get heavy in terms of this, because some people completely write this off and just say it's got no bearing on our physical health. But we know it does. We know stress is a huge factor. You know, my lovely mate, Rangan Chatterjee, talks about this a hell of a lot as a doctor, that so many, I don't want to misquote him, but in the 90s, percentage of everyday ailments that he sees in his practice are based on stress. You know, we know that it's having an impact on our bodies, but we're not taking it seriously enough.
Yeah.
So let's look at negative self-talk. First of all, what do we do? Is it noticing we're doing it first, and then what?
Notice it, correct yourself, say it's, I'm infertile. No, I'm going on a fertility journey. We've already switched it. It's not a definitive no as well. You're going on a journey.
Yeah.
I've been journaling since I was 20 years now. I read The Artist's Way. Finally.
We've had Julia Cameron on here. We love her.
Oh my gosh, changed my life. That woman did.
She's great.
I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and that was one of the books that started to help me get better.
Wow. So tell me about this. So tell me about your diagnosis, and then how did this particular discipline of journaling help you?
I was diagnosed with lupus, which they say and still say there's no cure, and I got very, very, very chronically ill. Loads of my hair fell out. I still wear a wig. I think I've still got issues since my hair came back. It's not the same hair, and so I'm like, but I want it to be what it was before. I think I'm about 9.5 stone now. I went down to 5.25 stone. I wouldn't have been able to be in here with all the light because I would get blisters and lesions on my face. My tongue would bleed, all sorts of things, and starting journaling and changing the way, instead of me saying I have lupus, was I said, I just have this constellation of symptoms, and wrote about my anger and how angry I was about my body and what I wanted. I guess it's sort of like a therapist on a page.
Wow. I mean, this is game-changing for so many people for so many reasons, where we feel really stuck with it. It might be a diagnosis. It might be a belief we have about ourselves. It might be something that happened in the past.
A divorce.
Like anything that we're wedded to the negative side of and that we feel is immovable. Because I think certainly with something like lupus, where you're told there is no cure, there's no way you will find a solution to this, it's very hard for people to think otherwise because they're being told it by the medical world.
Yeah, and I get berated quite often when I say I reversed it. I never say that I cured it. But look at me. Do I look like it's not active? I'm not with these symptoms of all of my hair falling out. I don't have lesions on my face. My face isn't bleeding. I don't have the butterfly rash. I don't have severe arthritis. I don't have the Walker Zimmer frame that I used to have. I don't need a lever to get me out of bed. I can bench press. Is it called bench press or leg press? Leg press more than I weigh. You know, that's someone that used to pee the bed because I couldn't get out of the bed to get to the toilet.
So what would you say? So certainly the mental side of it is hugely important. Would you say the most important part of that healing journey?
I think it's a great start because you change your mindset. It's not, this is it. It's not, even though I was told this is it, I had to tell myself, no, there's a possibility it's not it. And it's about creating that possibility for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, otherwise,
what do you have,
give
right?
up.
Yeah.
You give up.
And there's a practice that I love that I've even done for myself that I created with a client actually in the book. Because I listen to meditations, hypnosis, everything, you know, I'm on my journey of life and being who I want to be. But you still have that negative voice sometimes right in your head of what we've been told as a kid, or you can't do this because you're a girl, you're too fat, you're too thin, you're black, you're white, whatever. So I created this meditation for this lady. I kept sending her meditations and they just weren't working. I just couldn't get that hope and that belief in herself anymore. So I said, okay, write down every negative thing you've been told by society, a family member, a teacher, anything, all that you believe about yourself. You do that. The next day, you write the opposite of it. And then the third day, you read it, each line over and over and over again out loud, and you record yourself. Because your own voice is the biggest voice you're ever going to listen to. You can listen to your Gabor Mates, you can listen to Mel Robbins, to you, to me, but still in your head, yeah, but it's not for me, I'm this person. And you listen to that and you go over and over again and you reprogram your brain, and it's worked for every single client.
I bet it has, because we all do it, and it's so dependent on, you're tired, you've eaten badly, you've had a shit day because something happened, and it's so easy to slip back into it. I do it all the time. I'll have great periods where I feel pretty okay and robust, and I'm not, falling back on the old negative tapes that used to whirl around in my head. But then I could so easily slip down it if I have a shit day, or something trips me up and I'm like, oh my God, no, I was foolish to think otherwise. You feel naive or too, I don't know, like overly confident to think that you could step outside of that line of thinking. But actually, this is habit. This is you have to get into a good habit of it.
It's like going to the gym.
Yeah.
But for your head.
For your brain, yeah. I mean, you do need probably more discipline than you would to go to the gym to continue with that, because it's privately and quietly in your head. There's no one holding you accountable. There's no training schedule. You've just got to get jolly well used to replacing that negative shit with something more positive.
Yeah, for me, I say it's getting my armor on for the day. So once I've dumped on that page and got everything out, then I do my gratitude list, and then I've got my armor on, and I'm like, yeah, do you know what? I'm okay. I'm an okay kind of person. Yeah. I'm ready for the world.
I think it's so important, in and outside of this fertility chat, for us all to get a lot better at doing it, because I think it causes, I know personally, it's caused me all sorts of stress over the years and shit periods of my life where you believe it. That's the most dangerous bit, I guess, is that you start to not only, you're not hearing those voices every day, but you're believing them. You believe that things can't get any better.
Yeah, and if someone tells you you need egg donor, of course, there's always going to be some cases that someone does have to have that. But also it's about reframing that, and that's not a failure. You know, or I've had clients come to me that have even changed their mind on the journey that we've taken together. Actually, we don't want it. We don't want another child. We just thought we should have one. And actually now we've come together doing this work, we've realised we're happy where we are.
How interesting. I mean, if someone's listening to this, obviously it's a lot of information to take in, and you've got to have a start point somewhere. It's going to be maybe different for everybody. But if someone is feeling at the end of their tether, you know, again, I'm sure like you have not only clients, but so many friends you have just gone, I'm done, this is it. I can't take this anymore, because not only is it constantly disappointing, but it's draining. It's draining to be on that cycle of every month getting your hopes up, feeling completely dejected at the end of the month again. What would you say to someone who's in that place at the moment?
It really depends on, like, they might be a single person. I've got lots of single people. You know, sit down and have a chat with yourself. Do this, journal it out. What do you really, really want? Is it, do you have to give birth to this child? Would adoption be okay for you? You know, fostering, all of the surrogate. There's many options to becoming a parent. If you're in a couple, sit down, and so many of my clients, I'm like, have you even discussed your option B, C, D? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, quite often when you have options, it's less scary.
Yeah.
It really is less scary. You know, my partner didn't want egg donor, but he was okay with adoption. So I was like, okay, right, we'll throw the kitchen sink out, we'll do this. And then if this doesn't work out, then we'll try IVF. We can go to a different country, they will accept us. And then that's the next option down the road. It takes the pressure off.
Yeah, and you need less pressure.
Yeah, yeah. And also if you are in a couple, and it sounds crazy, but I one of the weeks that I give my clients is no sex in the bedroom.
Oh, fun.
No sex in the bedroom. And then the guys, then they like me. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, Liberty says.
The garden, you say?
Yeah, anywhere. And I'm like, and you can't schedule it. So everyone's, you know, it gets you into your body. It gets you flirting again.
Yeah,
it makes you
fun.
Remember that your thing isn't, you know, a baby machine. And they have the most fun. And they quite often, you know, infertility journeys can be so serious and pressurized, and money and appointments and all of these things. They've forgotten to have fun.
Yeah.
And you need that.
Well, you do. And also because we know that all the hormones that are released when you feel happy and relaxed are good for you. Yeah. So that's going to help hugely. That's not just some sort of frivolous, fun idea from you. That's going to physiologically help you.
Yeah.
Another really important thing when we're looking at the journaling side of thing, the writing side of thing, is letter writing. Talk to me a little bit about letter writing.
So another controversial, I just realised quite a lot of what I do is quite controversial. A lot of us ladies, I will hold my hand up and say I'm one of those, have had a turbulent relationship with their mothers. And our eggs were in our mummy. Right? And we all know about epigenetics. We all know about how stress and trauma affects our body. So I'm often say, you know, even if your mum's not here anymore, or you've never met your mum, write a letter. Let's deal with it. Let's, you know, about what you are grateful for. Because we can all say to our mums what she didn't do, what was wrong, la la la. But we don't often know what our mum was going through, or sacrifices. I remember you had Dynamo on, and what he said about his mum was just so beautiful, but he didn't realize that until he was an adult. And I was the same. You know, my mum had me quite young, and it must have been so hard for her. You know, she was white, gave birth to a brown baby in Manchester in 1974, and we had bricks thrown through our house and all of those things. It must have been really difficult, and I never gave her the grace for that.
Do you send this letter?
You can send it. If not, some clients have sent it. You can burn it. You can I've had clients surf and put it out to sea, and then they're like, "Oh, you know when I picked up the phone to my mum, I no longer have stomachache. My tummy is just like settled."
Yeah.
That was a
getting
guy.
it out of you, isn't it? Just getting it on paper.
out and addressing that it even exists.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and then we do letter writing to embryos, past babies that didn't make it, miscarriages, abortions. There's a lot of guilt around that. And I've had clients where they write the letter and they plant it under a tree.
Yeah, that's
Or they
nice.
plant it, they go and buy a plant and they water it and let it grow, you know, and they say thank you to you embryos. You got to day 4 or whatever. And it's acknowledging that you've come so far on a journey as well.
Yeah.
Rather than that was a failure.
Yeah.
Same with ladies, fertility. If you're menstruating, people are, oh, got my period this week. Oh, damn. I'm like, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. It's working. You're menstruating.
It still means things are going. If
Yeah.
you don't have a period, you're not pregnant, then we've got a problem.
Yeah. 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 Again, I think it's just going back to what we said right at the start of this, is that the negative language used around fertility specifically towards women is something that is impacting us hugely, and something that needs to change. And we can't systemically change it, medically change it, but we can change it in our own worlds.
Yeah. And I want to change it in the world, out there with doctors as well. I'm working with a charity to go in and talk to GPs about language, about how certain supplements do help, you know, your omega-3s, testing for vitamin D, how important that is on a fertility journey, those basics, you know. So I want to do what has been done for the menopause for fertility, because if we don't look after our fertility, well, we're not going to exist.
Yeah. It's important.
So it's kind of important.
It's kind of important. And I learned a lot from reading this book. I really enjoyed, you know, it was a book I probably should have read 15 years ago. But it's brilliant. And it's, you know, as you say, some of this stuff people might take as controversial, but it's really important that we put all these different options out there for people. So yes, they might want to do IVF, but they might want to do journaling at the same time. You can do it all. It's not going to harm you. This is all going to add to the empowerment that you should feel when you're going down this path.
Exactly.
I'd love to finish by asking you personally, where is your happy place, Liberty?
Well, I've thought about this a lot this last week, and the only answer is it's when I'm in those moments of being really, really present. And that could be anything. I was thinking last night, and it's always in silence. So every morning, me and my little girl, I go in. She wakes up every morning in a northern accent, says, "Is it wake up time?" Like really loud and really deep, and she's tiny. And I say, "No, it's cuddle time." And we go in, and she sort of rugby tackles me, and we put our faces cheek to cheek, and we just lie there for like 2 minutes. We don't speak. It's just, and then I go, "Okay, come on, let's get up." So it's moments like that, or I might just be eating. And I'll be like, oh, my God, aren't I so lucky that I've got this food and I've got this house? Because there was a time, because of my illness, I went to food banks and I didn't have any other food that people would give to me. So those are my habits. It can happen anytime throughout the day. It's not a general thing, because I might be thinking about, oh, I've got to go here next, or I should have done that, or I need to put the washing on. It's about those moments of silence when I'm truly present with life. Even on a walk, I could be like, oh, this is a nice place, but, you know, I've got to go back and do this reel, or I need to get on with the next book, and I'm not 100% present.
Yeah.
It's when I'm totally present and I'm like, wow.
Yeah, they're special moments.
I'm really, really lucky.
Yeah.
That's my happy place.
I love that. Well, look, Liberty, it's been so great talking to you. I think this is going to be really helpful for so many people out there, and it might be a really great start point for many people who are feeling quite lost on this journey. So thank you so much.
Thank you.